saying F business. And you have the Prime Minister who keeps kicking the can down the road, which creates a lot of uncertainty for business. And I know, having run a FTSE 250 company, it is a cancer for business, uncertainty. And she doesn't understand.
Now, Seema, a lot of people cannot understand that how we have self-created this problem. Were people really asking for Brexit?
That's a very good question. And people are also now saying, what will Brexit be the answer to? I don't think anybody can answer the question as to what Brexit will solve, genuinely, in terms of jobs, in terms of education, funding, in terms of NHS progress, in terms of vacancies in the NHS. There were issues at the time, and they were issues that could have been dealt with differently, and particularly around immigration. It's clear immigration has been perceived as an issue in this country for good and genuine reasons. And I do believe that we needed to address the controls around immigration much more so than we did do. We had the means, and we still do have the means, to do quite a lot of that, even within the rules of the European Union. Whether that is having people needing to have a job before the, and otherwise having to leave the country within after 3 months, being able to make sure that there is more scrutiny before you've got access to public provision. Those are things that we might expect. Say we went to other countries as well, or even, it's understandable that each country would have its own rules, and European Union countries do apply those rules in different ways. And many countries do what I believe we should have done a long time ago from the beginning, is have a registration process for EU nationals. As a result of not doing these things, we created a situation where the public didn't feel that the government was managing migration. At the same time, we had a government that changed the rules for non-EU migration and immigration unfairly. We protested and we voted against those changes, say for Asian families, visa rules, family visas, even the working visas. The hoops have been made much harder, unreasonably, for those who want to work in our country. So I do believe at the heart of this has been the mismanagement of immigration, much of which we could still do differently and should still do differently and make more fair. So in kind of having Brexit as it is, we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because all the benefits of being membership of the EU, we are citizens of the European Union, written on our passports. Those give us rights. The rights that we share with 27 other nations, rights that we can have in any nation in the world. I'll give you one example. If you needed embassy support in a nation and you didn't have the British embassy near you, any EU nation, their embassy would have the obligation to help you. And we throw away rights that we've negotiated and supported. The right of young people to go and work, live or study in any of those nations. They're going to be competing for jobs in the future with their counterparts in the European Union. I want to promote prosperity and opportunity for the young people in this country. And I know how I gained from being able to work in different countries as somebody who was younger. So I think we need to ask the serious question. We had immigration that was a big issue that drove the referendum. We can address the issues of immigration in different ways. We should address it with our European partners as well, and I've spoken on this. But are we doing the right thing to throw out all that's good in our relationships? And should we be challenging that?
So it looks like it's a great act of self-harm to this country. But is there any way to salvage the situation now, Dinesh?
Well, I just want to make a point before I answer that question, and that is that there is no form of Brexit that makes our country richer.
Every
form makes it poorer. I mean, how do you salvage it? Well, Ireland, Denmark and Holland have had second votes on various treaties. So obviously they voted against the European Union or one of the treaties of the European Union, and then they found out new information and had another vote. And voted yes.
Now,
so we can also do that.
Well, in that case, my fear would be, what about if we have the same result in the second referendum? Because,
then we have to leave.
because the Leave camp is very well organized. Their ideas are fairly simplistic, which ordinary people understand too easily. And all these benefits of remaining inside Europe are fairly complicated, and it's very difficult to communicate them effectively to the masses. So what if we have second referendum and we get the same result, Seema?
You are right that populism is leading our debate, and that is a danger for our country. It's a danger, in my view, for the unity of our country. It's a danger in ways that are already being expressed. If you look at the rise in hate crime, gone up fivefold since 2012. Remember how proud we were when we had the Olympics. We were so proud of our country, of our diversity. We were world leaders in setting an example.
And they were admired all over the world.
And now we see hate crime on the rise, death threats even to members of parliament. Now, not just members of parliament, now journalists and many others. Now, this isn't the country that I have known my whole life. There is a challenge, which is that the Leave campaign is steeped in the art of what somebody described to me this week, very close to Nigel Farage. They said it's the Trump playbook. He has been touring America, learning his techniques of how to be populist and how to whip up support. So you have to also, if you've got somebody who's like the equivalent of a magician who has been practicing their craft to whip up popular support, is that the direction we need to go as a country?
Well,
that's why, if I just make this point, that in my view, and there'll be different views on this, a vote for a Remain party is going to be most important, in my view, for the Labour Party, because it's the best chance, but a Remain party, to make sure that we defeat the Farage element, which is not going to be uniting, it's going to be divisive. But the only way is going to be through having a confirmatory ballot. It means that we need to have a deal that goes through Parliament, in my view. It means the Prime Minister must compromise on that deal. It means that we must have a confirmatory ballot as part of getting that deal through. Yeah. And it means that the country must decide. My view is, if we have a second referendum, if Leave wins again, we will deal with the issue of the democratic deficit of the first referendum, and we will do it being able to say that the people had a chance to look at the evidence in a way they didn't the first time.
Well, this is the time for a short break. Don't go away. We'll come back.
Tired of always running out of data? Don't worry, we've got you covered. With Leica Mobile's UK Plan Ultra, you get a phone-busting 15 gigabytes of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £12 for 30 days. That's a limited-time offer of over 50% off when bought online with a new SIM order. That's big data and big value. Visit leicamobile.co.uk today to see the full offer. Terms and conditions apply.
मिले हो तुम हमको बड़े नसीबों से चुराया है मैंने किस्मत की लकीरों से ओ लड़का तुम्हारे मैनू काला चश्मा जचदा है गोरे मुखड़े ते
Hi, this is Chef Dipner from the brilliant in Southall. Our newly refurbished banqueting suite is now open. With a private car park and a tailor-made menu devised by me, we cater to your every requirement. The suite accommodates up to 180 guests, so whether it's a shagun, chunni, pre-wedding get-together, celebration or corporate event, we have packages to suit all. Voted as Ramsay's best restaurant, we endeavour to bring you a dining experience nothing less than brilliant. So come, be part of my brilliant family.
Skylink Travel and Tours, यात्रा स्पेशलिस्ट कैलाश, मानसरोवर, चार धाम, अमरनाथ અને જ્યોતિર્લિંગની યાત્રા માટે કોન્ટેક્ટ કરો 0208-902-3007 અથવા વિઝિટ કરો hindupilgrimage.co.uk. Skylink Travel and Tours, યાત્રાના સ્પેશલિસ્ટ.
खुशी गम
शुभ अशुभ वक्त और हालात के साथ बदलते ही रहते हैं। आप देखिए आपकी अपनी किस्मत का हाल किस्मत कर्मा के साथ आपके अपने चैनल MATV पर।
This is a report from Save the Children. These scenes at Chiamala Hospital in Central Africa may look like an emergency, but we see this throughout the world every single day. Among the new arrivals, we found Kayembe. So frail he can no longer stand, Kayembe is almost 2 years old. But his weight is less than half that of a healthy child his age.
C'est un cas grave de malnutrition.
Kayembe needs food, and he needs medicine urgently. These are the basic things that you can help us provide by calling the number on your screen now and giving just £2 a month. Save the Children know what it takes to save a child's life, but we need your help. Because tomorrow, we'll see more children arrive, and the next day.
S'il n'y a pas assez de nourriture à donner aux enfants, les enfants vont mourir.
Please pick up the phone now. Call 0800 035 6365 or visit our website and give your £2 a month. For a child as critically ill as Kayembe, a single phone call can make the difference.
हेस्टन हाइड वेस्ट लंदन के सबसे शानदार होटल्स में से एक with 303 air conditioned rooms and suites, one of the largest banquet spaces in London, meeting room for up to 1200 people, conferences, musical function, weddings या कोई भी गैदरिंग, मनपसंद भोजन, शानदार आयोजन और बेहतरीन वेन्यू, 400 गाड़ियों की पार्किंग के साथ Heston Hyde. For bookings, call 0208 572 1818.
This is Rajneeti Live, and I'm Vijay Rana, and with me are Seema Malhotra, MP for Feltham and Heston, and Dinesh Dhamija, who is representing Liberal Democrats and also standing as a candidate for the coming European elections, which are due on 23rd of May. Dinesh, we're talking about people's verdict and how it can be formulated or manipulated in modern times. And there is a possibility, as Seema was talking, as I was asking Seema earlier, that what if we get the same verdict if there's another referendum or a confirmatory vote? People, Parliament is unable to form an opinion. People are quite distracted and confused. So what is happening to democratic, and this is not happening in Britain alone, this is happening from America to India. So
well, let's talk about the democratic vote that took place in 2016, the referendum.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very important that it's underpinned by the rule of law. And that's why it's a democracy. You can't just take the vote and then say what you like and railroad everyone down this path. And the reason I say this is because the Leave campaign were convicted of overspending by 10%, yet they only won by 2%. But no one talks about this, especially in Parliament, especially among the Brexiteers. Well, they say they also said some lies and we also said some lies. But did anyone mention £39 billion as a payout? Do you know what that comes to? £2,500 per family of 4. Let's have a vote on giving £2,500 to each family or giving it to a foreign country like Brussels. Let's see what happens. So, whatever is convenient to the Brexiteers, they use. And what is not convenient to the Brexiteers, they go and say, sorry, it's democracy, you've got to implement that first, and then we can have another vote. Well, let's have another vote. And we've got, it's like going to buy a house, and say your wife and you agree to pay, whatever, £1 million, I'm just giving a round number. You then find, in your survey that you do, there's a big hole under the house, and the house could fall in. You don't go back and say, I have decided that I'm going to buy this house and I'll pay the £1 million. You will negotiate with the seller. And that's what's happened. You've got £39 billion to pay. You don't have a trade deal with Europe. You don't have a trade deal with 60 other countries. And business is suffering. We're losing jobs, and jobs are moving to the mainland Europe. And they're saying that's fine. Bring on a second referendum and let's see what happens.
How much public support is for second referendum? See.
I think the support is growing. It's very hard to be sure about that, but it's definitely grown and significant. If you look at the marches that we had, people who have not been involved in anything like that before, families coming out to support the idea of another democratic vote, to be sure that before we take this step, that's the final choice. And there are people who are leavers who support a people's vote or a confirmatory ballot, and that is so that we can close this chapter on the democratic point about, is this really what the people want to do? I just want to come back on two very brief points. The first is about this 39 billion. We talk about this as if it's a donation, but it's like a subscription. And a subscription means that you get something back. You know, people who might be members of a gym, they might be paying £40 a month, right? They're paying more a month than we are per person, actually, to the European Union, which gives the right to travel without visas, the right to have access to healthcare, the food standards that are across the board, very important for, particularly children, in terms of maybe additives or anything else with food, the cleaning up of our beaches so that we've got decent and safe beaches and we have those standards that we can be sure of across our European Union. Many things, many of those standards of work, of rights, of security, of European arrest warrants so that our police can work seamlessly and freely. Many of those places in which we're at the top table. I mean, any crisis, we're all at the top table together. So I think these issues are important because we've got to see what we get as members. We're members of an international club. We're not donating, and we've got to shift the discussion.
But Dinesh, there was a time when we were told that there's a European super state and why we have to subject ourselves to that superpower. And this is diminishing our sovereignty or taking away part of our sovereignty. Well, that was the argument in favor of leave, wasn't it?
Well, according to Hansard, which is the keeper of records in Parliament, 87% of our laws are made by the UK in the UK. 13% come across. And what's Seema saying? Roaming charges taken away. Equal pay for men and women put on by the Europeans. The arrest warrant, the policing right across Europe, etc. But I also want to go back. As Asians, as BAME citizens, hate crime, as Seema mentioned, went up by 327% 2 weeks after the Brexit referendum. Not since 2012. 2016, it went up by 327%. 40% of our people voted for Brexit. Now they know, because you have the BNP, you have the British fascists, you have the National Front, all of them going out and targeting foreigners. This is not good. Mm-hmm. And that's why Europe is good. But the question you asked, and I'd like you to repeat it, but because I've forgotten.
The question was that how to, we were told that the Europe is behaving like a super state and taking away part of our sovereignty.
What super state is Europe doing? It's facilitating the coming together of 512 million people. It is trying to establish trading links around. Which government, which business would like to reduce from 512 to 66 million or 65 million? Are we mad?
I want to just add a point there. I want to bring to life what the European Union actually means. Because if you imagine a table that's 4 times the size of this table, and you imagine 28 prime ministers around that table, they discuss things together. So this isn't about what Europe's done to us. In fact, many European nations would actually say Britain has been leading so much in Europe. We have been leading on financial services, on making sure that you can have those products that are of high quality wherever you go. The fact that you can have your bank accounts seamlessly and with security in the way that we do is not an accident. The fact that we can stop money laundering, these things aren't accidents. The fact that we have air pollution controls, the roaming charges. In fact, the Labour Party members of the European Parliament, because it's been primarily the Labour members of the European Parliament who have been driving some of these issues, workers' rights, environmental rights, climate change targets, these aren't by accident. These are things we've negotiated in the European Union. And I'll just make this point. I remember a very good piece of advice I was told when I got married, which was, in life you can go so far on your own and you can do well, but if you want to go even further, then you need to be in a partnership. And the truth is that as a nation, we can go so far on our own. If we want to be leaders and truly influential, we need to be in partnerships. They're not perfect, but they are our family.
But this reminds me of the great joint Indian family breakup. It's equally fractious, it's confusing, nobody knows which side people are. So this is very, very Indian saga, I would say. Now, Dinesh, the European Parliament elections are being held on 23rd of May, and you are standing as a candidate, knowing fully well that we may not be the part of Europe, or we are almost about to leave Europe. What do you hope to see from these elections?
Well, the first thing is that if we were going to leave Europe, we would have left on the 29th of March. And secondly, I'm an optimist. And I think that Europe is good for us. By the way, there's a website called What Has Europe Done For Me? Go to it and see all the stuff that Seema and I have been talking about, and 10 times more in there. But I am absolutely impressed by the Europeans. I know as a businessman, I did so well because I was in 11 countries of Europe and I had a market of 300 million people. And I'm sure that Theresa May will lose, and most probably, I don't think the Conservatives will want a general election. Look at their ratings in the polls. So the only thing that they'll have to have, is a people's vote.
Seema, it's almost certain that Theresa May has, her days are numbered. Her exit is almost certain. Do we know who is going to be the next Prime Minister? Let's say before election within the Conservative Party.
We don't know, but I do think that there are people who are talking about Boris Johnson or Dominic Raab, and the reason why is because within the Conservative Party there's that harder, group of, they call them the European Research Group, who want a harder Brexit and are more right-wing on social issues as well. But whoever becomes the Prime Minister, look, you can change the head, but the dragon's still the same. You know, this is a party who have made the decisions that have led our country to be in the state that it's in. I'll be frank with you, even now Tories are coming on board to say, how comes we're in a situation of a country that's seen tax cuts while our school funding has been cut, that we've cut 21,000 police officers. Today I was in one of our prisons of Feltham Young Offenders in my constituency, talking about how do we deal and support young people. I'm asking everybody, where you're working with young people, what do you think is the cause of people going into crime? Again and again, it's cuts to youth services. So you can't have safe communities on the cheap, older people waiting for social care. These are the things that Theresa May is going to be held even more accountable for. Brexit isn't going to solve them. So you can change the head of the dragon, it's still the same problem. And this is where the new Prime Minister is going to have to be real with the British people about the challenges we face.
Dinesh, we can go on criticizing Conservatives and Theresa May and Camerons and all these people, but Labour Party, has Corbyn played a fair game?
Well,
because we are still not clear whether he wants to leave
well, absolutely. I mean, you're right with that he has MPs in the north that are in Brexit constituencies and MPs in the south that are in Remain constituencies. And he has to say one way or the other, is he a Remain or a Brexiter? For him to go into negotiations with Theresa May in itself shows that he's a Brexiter, in my view. Yeah, so you might have another view. But the Labour Party is not a Remain party. The Lib Dems are a Remain party for sure. And what we want the Remain vote to do at the Euro elections is to coalesce behind the strongest Remain party, to be a bulwark against Nigel Farage and the Brexit party. And what is the point of Nigel Farage standing for Brussels? To go to Brussels and slander those politicians there? What can he achieve? Try and bomb them from the inside? He should be standing for Westminster. But in my research, I found out that he stood 7 times since 1994 and hasn't been elected. So it's all right for him to go to Brussels and show that I'm a big wig, etc. But frankly, he's not helping the cause. We want to go into Brussels to help Europeans help the UK.
Seema, where does Labour stand on all this, this great confusion that's happening around us?
I've been very clear as well about my position, and if there's a confirmatory ballot, I would vote or I would campaign for Remain, and
so that's your position, but
and the position of
your MPs,
and the position of many, almost well over 150 members of Parliament. But Dinesh is absolutely right, because the Labour Party has had the most Leave seats and the most Remain seats. And that is the reason why it has been more difficult for Jeremy in how he's moved forward on Brexit. Where there has been the commonality that I think has been so important is to say and be honest that every version of Brexit is going to make this country poorer. But if you are going to leave the European Union, do it in the least damaging way and protect those rights that we have as citizens, protect our economy, protect our environment, but you're also going to have a cost. And now the question for the people in a confirmatory ballot will be, is that cost and is that price the one you really want to pay now that you can look at this? I believe that when it comes to if it comes to a confirmatory ballot, the key thing is that the Labour Party has been a really democratic party here as well. Just as we had a Labour Leave and a Labour Remain campaign in which the majority were in the Labour Remain campaign, I think you would see the same again in a democratic referendum, and people could make their choice.
Yeah, it's time for a short break. Don't go away.
Tired Tired of always running out of data? Don't worry, we've got you covered. With Leica Mobile's UK Plan Ultra, you get a phone-busting 15 gigabytes of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £12 for 30 days. That's a limited time offer of over 50% off when bought online with a new SIM order. That's big data and big value. Visit leicamobile.co.uk today to see the full offer. Terms and conditions apply.
मिले हो तुम हमको बड़े नसीबों से चुराया है मैंने किस्मत की लकीरों से ओ लड़का आंख मारे मैनू काला चश्मा जचदा है गोरे मुखड़े ते
Hi, this is Chef Dipner from the brilliant in Southall. Our newly refurbished banqueting suite is now open. With a private car park and a tailor-made menu devised by me, we cater to your every requirement. The suite accommodates up to 180 guests, so whether it's a shagun, chunni, pre-wedding get-together, celebration or corporate event, we have packages to suit all. Voted as Ramsay's best restaurant, we endeavour to bring you a dining experience nothing less than brilliant. So come, be part of my brilliant family.
Travel and Tours, यात्रा स्पेशलिस्ट कैलाश, मानसरोवर, चार धाम, अमरनाथ અને જ્યોતિર્લિંગની યાત્રા માટે કોન્ટેક્ટ કરો 0208902307 અથવા વિઝિટ કરો hindupilgrimage.co.uk. Skylink Travel and Tours, यात्रा स्पेशलिस्ट.
हेस्टन हाइड वेस्ट लंदन के सबसे शानदार होटल्स में से एक with 303 air conditioned rooms and suites, one of the largest banquet spaces in London, meeting room for up to 1200 people, conferences, musical function, weddings या कोई भी गैदरिंग, मनपसंद भोजन, शानदार आयोजन और बेहतरीन वेन्यू, 400 गाड़ियों की पार्किंग के साथ. Heston Hyde. For bookings, call 0208 572 18.
Has created for this country. As we are heading towards European elections on the 23rd of May, we have these two groups which have emerged in last few months or maybe more than a year now. Change UK, where do they stand, Dinesh?
Well, Change UK were split 9 MPs or 8 MPs from the Labour Party and 3 from the Conservatives. And when they were formed, they were a Remain group, and we, as the Liberal Democrats, immediately said, please work with us, and we could do something. We were rebuffed. We knew we have 460 constituency associations, so when they leave their Labour Party or their Conservative Party associations where they stand, we could give them that network of activists and other things. But they rebuffed us at that time. Then there was no time for the European election because it happened so fast, the decision to do them. And so now they're finding out in the opinion polls, for example, the number one candidate in Scotland has gone out and said, please vote for the Liberal Democrats, because they're the strongest Remain party. And hopefully they won't suffer really badly, that's all.
Seema, why are they so disorganized compared to Nigel Farage and his Brexit party?
I must say it surprises me because there is great experience as politicians there, but when it comes to campaigning, I think what the last general election showed as an example is that Theresa May have been stronger and perceived to be stronger in Parliament, but she wasn't a good campaigner. It's a very different skill set to be able to communicate to the country. And I do think that the Change UK party are now realising that it's much harder to go out and you need a base on the ground. So I think it's unfortunate. I think they're going to now be squeezed, and I think they're going to be squeezed between the two main parties and the Liberal Democrats, because essentially their identity isn't very strong in this election at all.
Now, if there's new general election, though we are into fixed term parliaments nowadays, how these two groups, Brexit Party and Change UK, how will they impact the two big traditional parties?
I don't think very much. I mean, Brexit Party might do a bit more if we don't Brexit than Change UK. But I don't think very much at all, because a general election can only be held with a vote in Parliament of 2/3 majority. And the Conservatives, with the way that they're faring in the polls, are so low. You saw in the local elections, they lost 1,324 seats. I mean, it was a decimation. They lost council after council after council. And the Lib Dems are doing better than that, in London at least, where I'm standing. So there is no way they're going to have a general election.
Seema, what are the chances of Jeremy Corbyn being the next Prime Minister of this country?
I think actually very high with what's going on right now. I don't think there's anything that we can take for granted, though, and I do think that really the difficulty of just being sure of the Labour position, people don't feel the communications have been very clear. That has had an impact. I do think we can recover it from it, though, and I do think that the last 7 days people will be saying, look, what's the choice? Is it going to be the Brexit Party being the spokespeople for Britain in Europe? Is that the voice we want? Or is it going to be, the Remain parties? Or is it going to, what's it that? How do we want to be presented in the European Union? And while those MEPs are there, they have a job to do. The decision about whether we leave or not is a parliamentary matter, and those MEPs that are elected will have a job to do for us to have Britain's voice being strong in Europe while we're still there. So I do think that we've got a journey still. I don't know as well if there'll be a general election, because I don't think the Tories will want to go into that campaigning within the state they're in. But if they do, and if we have that, people will say we need a change of government, and that's where I think it's very likely that Labour will win. I certainly feel that
Jeremy Corbyn, if there is an election, will be the Prime Minister, perhaps in a coalition, but he will be. Having said that, you were asking about a general election, not a European election. Is that right?
Exactly.
So the point about the European election is that whatever happens. You've got to count the number of votes the Remain party's got. I'm not talking about the Labour Party or the Tory Party or the Conservative Party. I'm just talking about the Brexit and UKIP on one side, the Greens, Change and us on the other. And we'll see what happens. But I am absolutely positive that if there's a people's vote, with what we know now, we will win the vote.
But Corbyn has been playing his card very, very close to his chest, and a lot of people are confused which side he's on. Yes. Is he exploiting the situation for his political advantage?
I think Theresa May is.
I don't think that at all. I think I come back to the point that Labour represents the most Leave seats in the country and the most Remain seats. And I think we have to recognise, we do have to recognise that there were 17 plus million people that voted Leave for all sorts of reasons, and some may well and have changed their mind. But how many is a different matter. And this isn't a rerun of that referendum. This would be a referendum on a deal that would be agreed by Parliament, and whether to proceed on the basis of that deal or to remain and reform. It would be like happened with the Northern Ireland Agreement, where a deal that went through Parliament then was put to the people to confirm that that's what they still wanted to do. That's why this is a democratic measure. And I do believe the vast majority of Labour members of Parliament, if we have a confirmatory ballot, would be campaigning to remain. But we would accept that if people voted to leave, that we would leave on the deal that had gone through Parliament.
Yeah. Dinesh, this was an ideal opportunity for your party to claim the middle ground. How confident are you? Have you done that, or have you missed the opportunity again?
Well, let me just answer one other point. I mean, it's all right for the Labour Party to go for both the Remain and the Leave votes, because part of their party is Remain and part is Leave. That's the same in the Conservative Party. What is good for the country, not what is good for your constituencies. Where is the leadership? Where is the strong leadership in both those parties?
So, that's my question.
No, so as far as we're concerned,
why couldn't you fill this void? You know,
well,
why couldn't
we've shown in the local elections that we've done a very, very good job. We never thought we'd get more than 300 or 400 seats. We got 704 seats. Yeah, we will try and show in the European elections, and the polls are showing so, that we'll do quite a good job. Yeah. And then there's a by-election coming up in Brecon and Radnorshire in Wales, because the Conservative MP has been convicted of some criminal charges. And let's see what happens there as well. So the only thing we can do is do well in elections, and you know, success guarantees success. Nothing succeeds like it. In the meantime, I hope that Jeremy Corbyn can get what he wants and Theresa May can get what she wants.
I'll disagree with one point there, which is that we're not trying to speak to different people. We are recognising that there was this division in the country. And with the Conservatives, for the most part, seats voted to Leave and Conservative Association support Leave. Just as the Tory party has only been speaking to Leave voters, and the Prime Minister has only talked about Leave voters, that has led to greater division. And if you simply just talk to Remain voters, you're going to have the same result the other way. So there is a really important point about talking to both those who voted Leave and those who voted Remain, as Jeremy has done in Parliament as well. That's why I do believe we need new structures like a citizens' assembly, which is a really important idea. Bring the country into the debate, those who voted Leave and Remain, talk about what this was all about, and then say, why is Brexit going to be the solution to those problems? That's really, we've missed this mechanism, and it's desperately important to bring it through, because if you're going to bring people together, just whether we Leave or Remain in Parliament in a vote is not going to bring the country back together.
Isn't it, a new idea of citizens? We already have a Parliament, so why do we need new structures?
I totally agree with you. I think that there should be proportional representation, and that way you're going to get weightage. We had, God knows, tens of votes in Parliament, indicative votes and this vote and that vote and the other vote. If you had proportional representation, you'd have different parties with different sizes.
But have you studied the Citizens' Assembly and how they've been used?
Hold on. The point I'm trying to make is that that's what would... See, first past the post means you get 30% of the vote and you won, but 70% of the people haven't voted for you.
Okay, we are heading towards the end of our discussion, and your final comments. Seema, what is the road ahead? We have last 1 minute, 20 seconds.
Very important that people think about the causes of Brexit, recognise that you can't solve the country's problem on the cheap, that Brexit isn't going to be the solution to the things that people really voted for. and that, in my view, it's going to be a choice between reuniting the country or more division. It's a really important election.
What is the road ahead, Dinesh Tamija?
Well, I think that we should stop Brexit, and if you vote for the Lib Dems, we will try and stop Brexit. That's the only thing.
Well, we are concluding this great debate. Seema Malhotra and Dinesh Tamija, thank you very much indeed. Yes, and one thing we know that Theresa May's days are numbered in 10 Downing Street, and we are still unsure where we will be at the end of this year. With Rajneeti Live, I'll